You know, in every major conflict, history isn't just shaped by what happens on the battlefield. It's also shaped by whispers, by secrets from the shadows. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most effective and, honestly, least known figures in early Islamic history, its very first secret agent.
So, picture this. Mecca. The city is completely hostile to the new message of Islam. The Muslims are a small, persecuted group, and their leader, the Prophet Muhammad, has a target on his back. So, in this incredibly dangerous time, who was the secret agent working deep inside enemy territory, feeding him all this crucial intelligence? Well, the answer is as surprising as it is brilliant.
To really get who our spy is, you first have to understand his family. The Prophet had these really influential uncles, and with most of them, you knew exactly where they stood. You had Abu Lahab, his sworn enemy. You had Abu Talib, his devoted protector, and then Hamza, one of his absolute fiercest warriors. But then there was Abbas. He was just publicly neutral. A wealthy businessman, always quiet. His role? A total question mark. And you know what? That's exactly what made him the perfect guy for the job.
So yeah, this story really kicks off with family. In a world where every single move you make is being watched, how do you hide a secret loyalty? Well, for Abbas, the answer was to hide it right out in the open.
See, Abbas was known for two things: his incredibly sharp mind and his skill in business. He wasn't a fighter, he wasn't a fiery preacher, he was a pragmatist. He understood power, he understood influence. And this very carefully crafted neutrality of his, it let him move freely among Mecca's elite, to listen in on their plans, to hear their secrets, all while quietly funneling support and information right back to his nephew. But this sort of informal help, well, it was about to become a full-blown formal mission. A moment was coming when the entire future of the Muslim community would be hanging by a thread, and Abbas was about to find himself right at the center of it all. So, the scene is set in the dead of night. A group from the city of Medina shows up for a top-secret meeting to offer the Prophet sanctuary. But he's not alone. All of a sudden, his quiet, supposedly neutral uncle, Abbas, shows up. Now get this, he hasn't even declared his faith yet, but he steps forward to take charge of this incredibly high-stakes negotiation. Can you just imagine the tension? This isn't just a friendly chat. This is an act of political treason, and the man brokering the deal is the one everyone thought was sitting on the fence. And Abbas doesn't step forward as a follower. No, he steps up as the head of the family. He lays down the terms, crystal clear, basically saying, hey, if you protect Muhammad, you're inviting war with all of Arabia. Are you ready for that? He demanded an ironclad guarantee, and he got it. So after this pledge is made, the Muslims begin their great migration, the Hijra, to Medina. But Abbas, he's ordered to stay behind. His mission is now official. Stay in Mecca, right in the heart of the enemy's power structure, and become the Prophet's eyes and ears.
Now, here's the thing about being a spy. You're useless if your cover gets blown. And Abbas's very first test was going to be a huge one, a real high-stakes gambit during the first major battle between Mecca and Medina, the Battle of Badr.
Before the battle even starts, the Prophet gives this really strange command. He tells his followers, look, when you see certain members of my family, the Banu Hashim, fighting in the Meccan army, do not harm them. His companions must have been so confused. Why spare enemies who are literally there to kill you? Well, it was all part of the plan. I mean, this is some next-level spycraft. As a prominent Meccan, Abbas is forced to join their army. Then, during the battle, he gets captured, unharmed, just like they planned. When he's brought before his nephew, he publicly pleads, hey, I'm a secret Muslim, you should let me go. But the Prophet publicly denies him and demands a massive ransom. This move completely convinced the Meccans he was one of them, just a loyal guy who got captured and had to buy his freedom. His cover was now absolutely rock solid. And did it pay off? Oh yeah, immediately. After he gets back to Mecca, Abbas starts sending a steady stream of high-level intel. Before the Battle of Uhud, his report on the Meccan army's numbers, their gear, their planned route, it allowed the Muslims to prepare a defense and avoid a total surprise attack. For the Battle of the Trench, his info on enemy coalitions was absolutely vital. He was basically a one-man intelligence agency, and he consistently kept the Muslims one crucial step ahead.
So for years, Abbas is this man in the shadows. But every spy's mission has to end at some point. And for Abbas, that moment came when he transformed from a covert agent into a very public warrior.
Finally, the day comes when the Muslim army marches to conquer Mecca itself. At that point, the need for a spy inside was over. So on the road to the city, Abbas formally and publicly joins the army. His mission was complete. He rode into his own hometown not as a secret sympathizer, but as a proud member of the conquering force. But his most famous moment? That was still to come. At the Battle of Hunain, the huge Muslim army walks straight into a perfect ambush. They're pinned down in a narrow valley, arrows raining down, and just absolute panic sets in. The army breaks and runs. A total collapse, thousands of men fleeing in chaos. Only the Prophet and a tiny handful of his companions stood their ground. And in that moment of what looked like certain defeat, he turned to his uncle Abbas, a man known for one very special gift, an unbelievably powerful voice. And Abbas just lets out this roar that echoes through the entire valley, a voice so powerful it cuts right through the chaos and the panic. He calls out to the fleeing soldiers, shaming them, reminding them of their pledge. And it worked. The sound of his voice literally stopped the retreat in its tracks. One by one, then in groups, the army turned around and charged back into the fight, turning a disastrous defeat into an unbelievable victory. The spy had become a warrior, but his story doesn't end there. Not by a long shot. His final role would be as a revered elder statesman, and his influence, well, it would echo for centuries. So after all the wars are over, Abbas settles in Medina. And he's not just some retired spy. He's a source of wisdom, a living legend. He was held in such high esteem that they built a house for him right next to the central mosque. I mean, that's the ultimate place of honor. There's this one little story that just perfectly captures the kind of respect he commanded. The Caliph Umar, the leader of the entire state, once moved a water pipe on Abbas's roof because it was dripping on people. Well, Abbas files a formal complaint. In court, he reveals that the Prophet himself had placed that pipe there. When Umar heard that, he not only lost the case, but personally insisted on hoisting Abbas onto his own shoulders, just so Abbas could put the pipe back in its exact original spot. Abbas lived a long, respected life, but believe it or not, his greatest legacy was still yet to come. The seeds he had planted through his service and through his family line were about to grow into something absolutely monumental. Let's fast forward about 100 years. The political world has changed completely. A dynasty called the Umayyads is in charge. But a rebellion is brewing, a movement that traces its claim to power all the way back to the family of the Prophet. And who was at the forefront of this whole movement? The direct descendants of one man, Abbas. The spy, the warrior, the statesman would now become the namesake of a world-changing empire. They were called the Abbasids, and they didn't just take over. They built the magnificent city of Baghdad as their capital. For 500 years, they presided over the Islamic Golden Age, a time of unbelievable advances in science, medicine, philosophy, and art that literally shaped the modern world, and all of it under a name that started with a quiet businessman in Mecca. And that is the incredible story of Islam's first spy. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many crucial moments in history turned on the actions of someone whose name we might never even know? How different would our worlds be if one man hadn't chosen to live in the shadows for a cause he believed in?